This time, find out how my guest landed her big break in what would become one of Britain's all-time greatest sitcoms, securing her star status for decades to come.
I thought, well, I probably won't hear anything, you know. And 2 weeks later, my then agent rang and said, no, they'd like you to be in this new show. They haven't written it yet, but they think they definitely want you to be in one of their shows. And then I found out 2 years later from Jimmy Perry that they said, when I went to have the chat, they thought I was balmy. And they said, oh, she'd be great as the pottage salad maid. So that was it, basically, darling.
Hello and welcome back to These Three Things, the podcast that asks which one person, place and treasured possession have profoundly impacted your life and why. My guest today is Su Pollard. Sue rose to fame in the 1980s playing the character of Peggy Ollerenshaw on the BBC hit series Hi-de-Hi. As Peggy, she made millions of us laugh out loud week after week as the haphazard chalet maid who dreamed of becoming a yellowcoat at Maplin's. A nation fell in love with Sue's comic timing, and from there on, she has simply never stopped working. Her television, radio and theatre credits are vast, with pantomime being one of Sue's specialities. But she is also an exceptional singer with a vocal range belonging on Broadway. In 2024, Sue launched Su Pollard, Still Fully Charged, a one-woman show celebrating her 50 years in showbiz. A third leg of the tour begins in September. Su Pollard, a very warm welcome to These Three Things. How are you today?
Well, for a start, I'd like to say a big congratulations for that fantastic introduction. You've done your homework. You know what I've done. And I'm always impressed by that. I've got to tell you, you know, when you go and do these panto launches, right, usually about August, you know, to make sure everybody knows. You go there and they say, well, Sue, welcome to so-and-so and so-and-so, whoever's there. And then there's always a blogger. I'm not dissing bloggers. I'm just, shall we just say, putting that out there. They say, well, have you done panto before then? And I just say, oh, I've done a few, babes. Do you know what I mean? But it's not their fault. They don't, I mean, why should they? Some of them are only about 26. They weren't even a fetus when I did my first one. But anyway, so it's lovely to be having a chat with you, Debs.
Oh, thank you for saying yes. It's absolutely gorgeous. I have to say, the studio that you're recording from today looks brilliant. Whereabouts are you?
Well, I tell you where I am. I'm at a great mate studio. In fact, he directed, right, Still Fully Charged, the show. And he also directed me in panto. We go back quite a long way now. And he's fabulous. He co-writes, he directs, he writes his own musicals. It's fantastic. You can see some of the things in the background. That's all his. And that's one of the shirts there that's on sale for the gig. As
the
you
merch.
can see, it's called Sue without an E. Because everybody says, even though they've known you for 50 years or so, they still spell your name with an E. It just drives me bananas. Anyway, this is his beautiful studio in somewhere in North London, overlooking the vast, fabulous trees and stuff. And, this is terrific. It's only up the road from me, so it's ideal, darling.
Oh, perfect. Well, I did read that when you bought your house in the 80s in Islington, is it the same house that you're still in? Have you always lived in North London?
My house, before anybody starts to complain, I should tell you, my house is called Campus Arseholes. And
I love
if you spell it Campus, then there's the letter R. And then there's a final word called SOLES, right? So it's called Campus Arsenal. And my dad went, oh, I can't put this up. He said, what's happened to Dunroman? I said, oh, come on, it's a fabulous name. So I've been there all these years and I really like it, Debs, because it's right near town.
I'd love to come to Campus Arseholes one day.
You're invited.
What a brilliant intro. Thank you. I'll take it. Okay, listen, let's get stuck in. As you know, I ask my guest each week the one person, place and treasured possession that have profoundly impacted your life. So why don't we start with Sue's person? Who have you chosen, please, and why?
the person I've chosen is David Croft, OBE, right? And this was from Jimmy Perry. Well, you know what that stands for, don't you? One boiled egg. But David never minded that. He had a terrific sense of humour. Because I'll tell you why he's on my list is because he's been with me, although he died about 10 years ago. His influence still remains because every single person that's worked for him and with him who was not known in the business at all, except like myself, he gave a lot of people, unknowns, their first real break. Now, I think he obviously, would see something in someone, whatever character he was writing them for, probably thought, yeah, there's some talent there. I can, use what they've got, perhaps nurture it a bit, give them ideas, and which he absolutely did. And he taught you things like, even like, for example, I'm leaning forward slowly like that because if there's a line next to me, like there was Gladys, there was Simon Cadell, there was Paul Shane, Ruth. And if you were going like that to answer somebody, you don't come out of the line because you're actually putting your face in front of theirs. So what you do, you actually stay in the place you're in and then you just avert your eyes like that. Even technical stuff like that. And he was so encouraging. Every time we did a recording, he'd come to your dressing room, knock on the door. You'd open the door, and there he'd be, and he said, well done, me darling.
Aww.
Just what I wanted. Oh, makes you fill up, And it was also good, but also he was equally very big on discipline.
Sorry to interrupt you really quickly, Sue. For the listener, David Croft was the writer-producer of Heidi High.
Oh, yes, exactly. Well, fancy me forgetting that. Oh, dear, poor cow. Anyway, yeah, and he was so good. But also, not just that, because of Dad's Army, Are You Being Served? A Lower Level. By Mrs. Noah, there was actually a fantastic sitcom with Molly Sugden. And so various other things. But also, he was very wont to be able to say, darling, we're going out for dinner tonight, all of us. Mm-hmm. Bearing in mind, you just had something to eat, tea and biscuits at 4:00. And then he'd say, have you ever had beef Wellington? So I said, well, what's that? Do you wear your wellies while you're eating it? No, not exactly, darling. And then he'd say, right, I think we should order this. And he'd teach you about wine. And it was a beautiful time. I'll be about 29 when I did the pilot. So therefore, you'd been in the business for like 5 years then. That's all. I'd only started at 24. And I was still sort of ordering a bit of, I'll have a bit of cheese and a bit of this and what goes to that and what does that mean? I didn't know anything about food per se. So it taught me to be able to read a menu properly. Not that I was being a snob or anything, but I could actually say, yes, I'd like to have a beef Wellington. Does it have the pate in it, please? Because it has pate, doesn't it, and all that.
Yes, yeah.
But just wonderful, fabulous things like that. And said, don't be ever afraid, Sue. Go for the performance. Go for what I've asked you to do. Just trust your judgment. And then he taught me a lot more as well about doing your stuff and replicating Peggy Ollerenshaw, as indeed all the other characters in Heidi High with the stage show. And he was very compassionate, David. He could cry, all of us. He cried so easily. He was very emotional. And he always used to say, he said, don't expect praise from me in rehearsal. He said, if I don't say anything to you, or just say, have you got a minute? No, darling, that's not quite what I want. Then you'd know that you were doing it right for him.
Yeah.
But we actually gradually got to know that, okay, we've got to learn the lines by Wednesday. Because on a Wednesday, you'd have what was called a producer's run, which meant that everybody involved with all the different departments, cameras, design, makeup, etc., would come along, and you'd have to do all the scenes with them as an audience, that they'd make notes for their own, convenience. And so you learned actually to do it quickly. You'd learn your lines, because you didn't want to let David down. Nobody did. And that's why we had a good team. No, it was marvellous, marvellous.
Tell me, when he first saw your work, was it a self-tape that you sent in and he just could see the talent there and thought, I want to meet this girl? What was that very first interaction?
No, that's amazing you said that, Des, because that's a new thing now, self-tapes. Never had them then.
All auditions?
Yes, but it was amazing because I didn't ever have to have one. I'll tell you why. I was very lucky because my then agent, Richard Stone, he had a funny eye, like boz-eyed. And when I was in his office talking to him, I used to go, hello. Thought there was somebody behind me. Oh, it used to make me laugh. Anyway, he was their agent as well, right? So he just said to them, I've got this new client. I think you might like to perhaps have a chat. So that's how I got the job. It's in the show, actually. And I went...
Oh, really?
Because lots of people often ask, how did you get your parts in this section about that? And I just went to have a chat. Basically, it was just a chat with David and Jimmy Perry, the other co-writer, who actually thought of Dad's Army. He thought Dad's Army up, actually, originally. And so that's how their partnership started. So they found that they got on well, so their partnership grew. And I went home to have a chat, and I thought, well, I probably won't hear anything, And 2 weeks later, my then agent rang and said, no, they'd like you to be in this new show. They haven't written it yet, but they think they definitely want you to be in one of their shows. And then I found out 2 years later from Jimmy Perry that they said, when I went to have the chat, they thought I was balmy. And they said, oh, she'd be great as the pottage Sally maid. So that was it, basically, darling.
Well, I can honestly say I remember all through the 80s being absolutely glued to Heidi High. I mean, your character, for me and for so many, just brought unlimited joy. And it was the whole show, wasn't it? It was the synergy of the whole show, all the characters together and all the things you can't say anymore. It was just that great banter that you had and the comic timing. But we fell in love with Peggy. You could really just feel the devotion that she had to Maplin's and the want and the will to become a yellowcoat. And the day that she put that on and she came out and she did those cartwheels all the way down the lawn, it's brought back so many fond memories for me. So David, let me ask you, did he go on to see you in all of your success? I bet he was thrilled to think I was one of the, first founders of this talent.
Well, he was absolutely marvellous because actually he went on to cast myself and Paul Shane and Jeff Holland as 3 of the characters in You Rang Me Lord, right, which was, shall we say, a little bit after, like Upstairs, Downstairs, right? Very similar period of time. But I think they actually thought that was their best work simply because they were able to have 50 minutes instead of 28. Because when you think you top and tail the show with the theme tune at the beginning, the theme tune at the end, so you only actually had 28 minutes. But with 50 minutes, they could explore the characters more and gave them a little bit of a broader spectrum. So we even had myself and Perry Benson that played Henry.
Yes.
He was like the boot boy. And I, of course, was Ivy at Teesdale, the actual downstairs maid, as it were, still. And we had buckling lessons from the Ivor Spencer School of Buckling. So they came along, this bloke came and taught us how to lay a silver service table. Because Jimmy Perry, he said, look, Sue, he said, a lot of people will be watching this and they were probably maids at the time that, this period is set in. So, and believe me, we got letters to say, well done. You actually set that table. Like, for example, a knife will go, you have to put the first digit of your finger on the table, and the knife does not come any further than the tip of your finger. Things like that. Oh, they were really hot on that. And Jimmy certainly was. So you see, we learned such a lot. And then once after that, which was fabulous, we had 5 years of that. And then we did a show, the same three of us again, myself, Paul, Shane and Jeffrey. And we did a thing called Oh, Dr. Beeching, which was all about set in the 60s, about what life was like on the railway. Basically, all the people that worked on it, so all the different characters. So one thing about David, he was extremely loyal, right? And if he felt you had a good rapport with each other, then he'd write something else around you. But also, equally, he had a lot of guest artists on it that he'd worked with over the years. Like even before I started, some of these people came on and they were 20 years older than me at the time, so they'd be in their 40s. And he brought them back as 70, 80-year-old sergeant majors. So we learned such a lot from guest artists as well. We had the fabulous fun, Deb, fabulous fun.
When you talk about his loyalty, I can imagine one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, what do you think David taught you about yourself? And it goes so far, doesn't it, in an industry such as yours, when loyalty really comes through, because it's saturated with, so much of the opposite. But what did he teach you about yourself, do you think, Sue?
He taught me that I had to stay as I was. As he saw me, don't have any airs and graces. You try not to. Just believe in your work, right? Believe in what you've got to offer, right? Learn as you go. Learn how to be disciplined. Learn how to respect your profession. It's not just a job. It's a passion. It's within you. If you want any longevity, Debs, in any job, you don't plan another 5 jobs within that. You have to. And he taught me that I'd already got that, but probably wasn't aware enough. As harness that, Sue. Harness it. Have your fun when you need to. But then you rein stuff in when you've got to. Like, when it's work. But then he was really good at that. He said, separate the two. He said, I know we have fun with the script. He said, but you can't keep breaking down in laughter like we all did. I said, oh, come on, David, give us a break. It's hilarious. He said, it might be hilarious, but, it's serious. Get on with it. There was one time, it was hilarious. I think we did an episode called Tell It to the Marines, right? Paul Shane, Ted Bovis, in his wisdom, had organised a flipping, like a cross-country race with the Marines. And all of us, the staff, myself, Spike, Ted, and then there was Stanley and Bruce, the Yellowcoats. And there we were, lined up, right? And it was just so funny because his sergeant major from the Marines was going, name. I'm so, name. Anyway, Jimmy loved putting moustaches on women. You just like the idea. If you watch any show that he's done, you've always got a moustache in it. So this bloke came up to him and said, name. And I went, trying to be a Marine. Gary. Gary what? Smith. Smith what? Robinson. Gary Smith Robinson. And I went, Gary Smith Robinson. Cut! Cut! Got into trouble for laughing. So I had to go to the Winnebago. Wow. And then Paul was no help because he came back and said, sorry, right, we'll go again. Action. And then he went, so, spilled all his lines out. I got mine wrong again. Laughing. And we got into trouble again. So he said, right, this time. But I'm saying, though, he wanted you knew it was funny, but you had to have the discipline. You had to rein it in.
Yes. Yes, time is money.
Yeah, well, exactly. And if you were late, woe betide you. You had to have a damn good reason for being late.
He sounds like the most brilliant mentor that you could ever come across, because a kind man, like you said, and someone who obviously enjoyed the really fine things of life, but never made people feel uncomfortable or excluded. That's the sense of him that I get. And tell me, were you friends right to the end?
Yes.
I know he's since
when he was
passed,
90, I remember going to his party, and he lived in a place called Thetford in Norfolk, which he knew very well. He knew Norfolk a lot because we used to do a lot of filming there, even Heidi High, right up until you rang with Lord and stuff, everything, because he knew the area well. And he knew who the production team had to speak to because, can you stop the planes from coming over today? We'll pay you so much money, or not all day, but a little bit, that kind of thing. So we went there, and he had a great big marquee. He had a jazz band because he loved all that. And he had beautiful, all these canapes came out. I mean, I know it's canapé, but I just call them canapes. And it was just so lovely. And we had a dance together. And we had a great big hug. And he was hugging us all. We all cried. And he just went, here's to all you guys and all the lovely guys on the set. And, he respected everybody. His whole team wanted to work with him. Because, see, he knew the worth of the people he'd got. And none of them wanted to work for anybody else. I've got to tell you, the two Ronnies, they loved David Croft's team. Everybody. Camera guys, lighting. So every alternate year, we were able to have, I think, the A team or the A+1. Because David used to say, the two Ronnies want them this year. It's only fair. I've got to give the crew over to them. But isn't that a compliment?
Yeah.
Anyway,
absolutely.
We danced, and then it was marvellous. The last time I saw him, because then 2 weeks he went away to Portugal, had a beautiful home in Portugal, and he went for a walk with his wife, came back, and said, I'm just going to make a cup of tea, darling. Oh, lovely, that'll be great. And she went out to make a cup of tea and he died. Just died. Heart.
What an end.
Yes, fabulous.
But peaceful,
Yeah.
Great.
Oh.
God bless him and rest him to David Croft, OBE, in heaven. Oh, thank you, Sue. I've loved hearing that. I've loved hearing about the start for you and about that very impressive mentor and friend.
Yeah, thank you.
Perhaps I can go on now to ask you about that special place. So the one place in life, where is it for you that you feel that you really belong? Where have you chosen?
I would say the island of Oahu, Oahu, in Hawaii. It's pronounced Hawaii. You don't go Hawaii, right? And they have that sign there, right? And you go, that means hang loose. It's the Hawaiian sort of welcome, if you like. Hilda and my dad, well, I call her Hilda, she's my mum. But when I was 15, I was a hippie. And I said, oh, no, I'm not calling you mum because I want to call you Hilda because you've got a name, a proper name. And they went to Hawaii once. I treated them for their holiday. And they said, oh, they loved it so much. So I said, I think you ought to go again next year. So it was lovely, actually. I was very fortunate to be able to have enough money to I mean, they always chose the cheap. I said, don't be daft, Dad. Have a nice hotel. And, oh, no, we don't have to go first class, he said, because we can have more spending money. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, bless him. Yeah, of course.
He was very good like that. And he loved it.
What was your dad's name? Sorry, Hilda and...
Don. Short for Donald, but he didn't like Donald. He'd always say Don. He was a liker, because I used to say to people, my dad's a Don. Oh, is he the mafia? I said, oh, yeah. He leads them all, you know. Some of them believed him.
Very remote. Tell me about the island. Which part do you go and stay and love? What's a typical day there?
Well, it's the main island, right, where everyone seems to go. You get Kauai somewhere else a bit further up the coast. And then you get on a day trip if you wish to go. You go on a coach and they take you all around the various places that you feel that might be shall we say, good viewing for tourists. Like, you go to a beach where From Here to Eternity was filmed. Do you remember that film? Here to Eternity with Deborah Carr and what was his name? Burt Lancaster. Well, Hilda was mad keen on the movies. So she'd go, oh, we've got to go there, Don. And, she loved it so much because it was all sensational. And then she said to us, you've got to come out here one day. So my sister and I went out there for holiday, went to the same hotel that they were in, and we had a car. And they took us around everywhere because the idea was for them, they would love a car because it meant that they could go further afield and they weren't just restricted to getting the bus, which they didn't mind. But I said, get a car. And we went to this hotel. They stayed at this beautiful hotel and it had everything in it. And it had a pool where a lot of the fish used to come. They used to come and swim straight from the ocean into this fish pool thing. It was absolutely marvellous. Anyway, Dad sadly passed away about, about 18, 19 years. And we had this big chat and said, look, we can't go and scatter Dad's ashes, in the local creme. That's not a fitting goodbye. So I said, I know what we ought to do. So I suggested, and Hilda said, oh, yeah, let's go to Hawaii. So I said, right, we'll do that. So anyway, I thought I'd better ring the US Embassy because they're going to say, what's in this urn then?
Yeah, sure. Going through, of course.
You know what I'm saying? Because you forget, and I was alerted to that by somebody else that worked in the British Embassy. Said, you might want to find out about that, Sue. So I rang them up and they said, he said, my advice to you, he said, what you need to do, you bring the urn, we'll check it through and saying that this has got special dispensation. Because apparently lots of people do that in various parts of the world. He said, but when you get there, I suggest that you don actually his ashes, go in a bag, plastic bag, so with the hole in it, pretend like you're piping a cake. So he said, you scatter them through the hole.
Yeah, yes.
He said, because then you don't scare the horses. By that, you don't shock the locals. Do you know what I mean? He said, do it surreptitiously, no questions asked. Nobody gets upset. You're not being questioned by anybody as to say what you're doing with this, that, the other. So what we decided to do, we scattered them, right, just outside where the hotel was. And there's a little pathway where the hotel is. And there's almost like a little island with beautiful trees on it, And we said, they can float out there and Dad, we can wave him off as he goes. And I'm sure all the trees waved wildly. I'm sure that was him saying, thanks, girls. Do you know what I mean?
Perfect. Bye, Don. Don is floating around Oahu, happy as Larry in the sunshine.
Absolutely marvellous.
Good for you.
Yeah.
How beautiful. Have you been back since?
Yes. Marvellous. We went back to the same hotel. And my sister and I and Hilda. And of course, my brother-in-law. Can't forget Tony. He was marvellous. Anyway, and we went to the favourite hotel again, went to the lovely place where after we scattered my dad, we went and had a little sing-song in the hotel, a bit of jazz. And then we toasted him in his favourite beer. He was mostly a beer drinker. And that was lovely. So we went back and replicated the whole thing, but we didn't have the ashes this time. But it was so good. Oh, it was lovely. No tears. It doesn't matter. You might cry at the time, but, it doesn't matter now. That was then. This is now. And still talk to him like I suppose lots of people talk to their mums and dads.
Okay, so Oahu in Hawaii. Your special place. Right. Then my last question to you, Su Pollard, is your treasured possession. So if you were stripped of everything, and often with guests, it doesn't tend to be some great monetary, valuable item. It could be absolutely anything. And I'm dying to know, what have you chosen as your treasured possession?
Well, it's a little card and it's got a little dancing girl on it at the front. And on the card, it has a little loop, right? So it hangs on my wardrobe doorknob. And you think, that's a little sort of lovely little. She's in a dress and she's smiling. And you turn it over and she said, "For Sue, here is your dancing partner. Love from Mum." She never said who it is. She said, "Love from Mum. Kiss, 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 kiss." And that was so lovely to me because we used to dance a lot in the kitchen. And we'd dance to like rock and roll and Tiger Feet by Mud. But then she'd say, "I'll teach you how to ballroom dance, Sue," which came in quite handy because I did Christmas special once of Strictly with Anton Dubeek, as I call him.
Yes.
Anton Dubeek. He didn't mind. He had his sense of humour. It was marvellous. And no, but that's my favourite thing because she's there every day and you just go, all right.
Yeah. When did she write you that card? When did she write you that card, Sue? Was it for a particular show or performance that you were about to star in and it came
actually
as a good luck?
No, I think it actually was just something that she sent. I think it might have been, no, it wasn't a birthday. I think she saw it and went, "Oh, I'll send this to our Sue," you know. So it's really nice. And but she was a really great mum. You know, she used to make me laugh. She'd come into the dressing room after a play that we'd done or a musical, whatever it was. And she always used to come in with me dad for the drink. Always have a guest, you know, like a bar, wine, beer, whatever, gin and tonic and lemonade or so for the youngsters. Well, it saves them going to the bar, and it's a special thing for them. They're coming backstage, you see, Deb.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she'd go, she'd make a beeline. "Orange juice, please, Sue." "Yeah, okay, darling, thank you." Then she'd pick up the lipstick, and she'd go, and then she'd go, "I'm singing in the rain," or whatever she was saying, thinking she was Susan Haywood, who was one of her favourite, you know, film stars from that era. No, she was terrific though, and they were both. And she was such a good support. Mind you, she used to say, "You're not going out in that, are you?" "Yeah," I'd say, "Yes." "Oh dear." Then sometimes I'd meet her at work from her workplace, and she'd go, "Do you think you could just walk behind a bit?" Because I used to go sometimes. I used to wear scarves around my ankles and my wrists like a Morris dancer. That was in about 1960. They weren't ready for it then, you see. They weren't ready.
I just love hearing you say about your parents dancing in the kitchen. You know, I can see Hilda and Don having a jive and a bop on a Friday night in the kitchen. My parents did exactly the same. They were brilliant dancers.
Oh, isn't that great, you see?
Yeah, brilliant dancers, and fell in love because they could both dance. And, you know, it was that time, wasn't it? It was so romantic. You didn't have much, but you had music and you had your friendship and had a little something to drink on a Friday night, and that was it. The party began.
Oh, totally.
It sounds to me like you're really close to your mum and dad, Hilda and Don.
Oh, I still am. Sadly, they've all gone. But you know what? It was so nice because I can still say, "Oh, you'll never guess what happened today, Dad. You'd have loved this." Because it was mad about do it yourself. Hilarious. And it walked people in the street, got to them and say, "Excuse me, mate, you know, there might be somebody doing a bit of maintenance. Can I just watch what you're doing with that wood?" Because he was a real do-it-yourself man. And then he'd go, "Oh, yes, I see what you're doing with that. Thank you very much. Tip top." And then he'd try and replicate what he'd learned from, you know, other people. So he was very, very good like that, always engaging with people and trying to make things better. And I'd say to him things like that. "Hey, Dad, I found a spare bit of wood today. I knew what you would have done with that. But, of course, I'm no good with it." I said, "So I've just left it for the dustbin men." You know, I can just hear him now going, "Goodness sake, you should have kept it in the garage." But you know what I mean? So it's nice to have chats, I think, don't you?
Yeah, I do. And I've got to ask you then, so this lovely little card from Mum of the dancer, you say it's on the dressing room doorknob, is that where it is?
Yes, yeah.
And you've had it there for years and years and years?
Probably.
And it's still in good time?
Yeah, probably about 20. Well, it's never been moved, you see. Never been. I find if you move things, Debs, you've had it. You don't know where you've put them or you like to think you remember, and then for some reason you've put it somewhere and you maybe tucked away with other stuff, and you might have thrown away a few things and Matt's gone with it. So I thought, no. Some things, just keep them where they are.
Your lucky gem, so you can rub it for luck and remember your dear mum.
Yeah.
Oh, Sue, this has been so lovely. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed capturing your 3 things. So to David Croft, OBE, to Oahu in Hawaii, and to that lovely card that your mum Hilda wrote you 20 odd years ago. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Well, I flipping have. It's marvellous. I mean, you know what you are? You're really engaging, though, Debs, you know. And you're not going... You're very eloquent, so you've obviously had a good, shall we say... I'm not even saying training, but the way of putting your sentence...
I did go to drama school.
Oh, that's why, then.
Yeah.
No, you're not...
25 years ago.
Well, that's terrific. So that stood you in good stead. I mean, it's really good because you know how to flow. And it's not... Tell me then, have you, you know, and you think, just get on with it.
Thank you for joining us today for another episode of These 3 Things. If you have particularly enjoyed this conversation, please do share it with a friend. Press subscribe or follow on your preferred platform. And if you have an extra minute, a comment or review is greatly appreciated. We release episodes every fortnight, so until next time, thank you and goodbye.